Is Bitcoin about to have a December to remember with a nice Santa Claus rally to kick off the end of the year? Or are we going to have something different? Tonight, I'm going to look at some short term time frame analysis with Bitcoin to see what's likely to happen soon as we kick off the new month. But also, I'll zoom out and look at some logarithmic regression and Fib analysis to just tie everything together into a longer term picture and see kind of where we're at as we close out this year and get closer to 2025. I'm the Gaussian Snake. This is crypto simulation theory. Nothing on this channel is financial advice. Be sure also to check out my Telegram channel when you get a chance. Link is in the video description below, but let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to pull up Bitcoin on the daily time frame, and we're going to see what's going on there. So hopefully you can see that right now. I'm going to change my video location. Okay, so on the daily time frame, we see that Bitcoin is just below its 10-day HMA. So for those of you who don't know, I use whole moving averages or HMAs on this channel instead of SMAs and EMAs. I just find that they're less lagging. And it does look like there's about to be a potential golden cross of the 10 with the 20, but that's not really what I would focus on here. Everything's kind of turning down. You have a death cross of the 10 with the 50, a death cross of the 20 with the 50, and an incoming death cross of the 40 with the 50. So I am anticipating further downside as we head into the early part of December could be a potential outcome. Now, if we take a look at the Snabble RSI for Bitcoin on the daily, you can see that we are in sort of a bearish divergence at the moment. I also noticed this on the KZX RSI, which I won't really show you. A little bit of a double top on the daily. So I think Bitcoin is going to be spending some time consolidating underneath $100,000. And as you know, that's been great for altcoins. Altcoins have really been enjoying Bitcoin's consolidation at higher levels, and that's exactly what we needed to happen for to get a nice altcoin season developing. But more on that in a different video. So yeah, I wanted to show you the KZX RSI. You can see we got our first sort of bearish divergence dot on that as well. So yeah, I mean, just looking at it, and we can see that, like if I put on the Bollinger Bands real quick, you'll see, and kind of turn these off, what's kind of going on at the moment. Also throw on a Gaussian channel. It's the daily Gaussian. You can see that we're coming in for probably an explosive move one way or the other on the daily time frame. So this is not going to be necessarily that dramatic. Now, it's, we are in a bull market, so it's very dangerous to assume that we have to go much lower. I think it's possible we visit this red zone. I've had it here for a little while. It's between about 85,000, I think it was 84,000, about 88,500, someone in there to match this horizontal resistance. So are we forming a potential head and shoulders pattern here with the head here, shoulder, shoulder? Maybe. I think that some downside action is probably likely in the short term as Bitcoin builds out a base for another move higher. And I still think we will hit 100,000 before the end of the year. More on that later. But anyway, this consolidation has been really great for altcoins as some of the capital starts to rotate in for altcoins. You can see on the daily time frame too that the alligator, this is the Williams alligator indicator, appears to be kind of starting to close its jaws potentially. The green moving average is starting to move towards the red, the mouth moving towards the teeth and the jaw. We could see this potentially start to close a little bit. If I look at some other indicators, the Trix bubble right now is pretty bearish. Again, this is on a daily time frame, so I'm still, feeling very bullish otherwise. But this is the 5-day SMA, and it's below all of its key moving averages. Everything is death crossed. So I imagine whatever downside that we do get, I don't think it's going to last throughout the whole entire month. I think we might start off with a little bit of red, and then we should see green hopefully by the middle of the month. You can even see on the wave trend oscillator, we have printed 3 red dots on the daily time frame. We are heading down, so I do think further downside is likely, probably in the first week or two of December, and then I think things will start to pick up, and we'll probably break 100,000 by the end of the year, if I had to guess. Now, this is all just based off a daily time frame analysis. What I want to do now is take a look at logarithmic regression for Bitcoin, and I want to look at the long-term logarithmic regression curve. I also want to take a look at linear regression, Fib analysis, just to kind of check in where everything is at. Just checking in with Bitcoin's long-term logarithmic regression. channel. This is backdated to 700 or fit to 775 weeks of data. So it goes all the way back to the inception of Bitcoin. And I've shown this before on the channel, although I've extended it since then. You can see a really nice fit. And as we've kind of approached the slower portion of logarithmic growth over the past decade, decade and a half, I'd say about a decade, you can see kind of how the fractals are starting to break up some more and we're not reaching as high. So each of these bands is half a standard deviation from the mean. So this is half, 1, 2, 2.5 standard deviations. Almost 2 standard deviations on the April 2021 top. And I anticipate we'll be at about 1.5, somewhere around 1.5 to 2 standard deviations on our next top. Whenever that happens to be, if it's late next year, I mean, easily could be in the 270K range, which I have projected as a strong possibility if we make it to the end of the year. So if you look at where we're at right now, we have successfully bounced off of the median line of the logarithmic regression channel. And we are, of course, hitting resistance at $100,000, which is a psychological resistance area. I think we probably come back down to the 0.5 standard deviation line this month. I think it's going to happen soon. And, around, like I said, 84.5 to $88,500. And then I think we'll start to head up higher. And the one standard deviation is at 128 to 130K. And remember, I've said I think that will probably represent an area where Bitcoin slows down a little bit. It's possible it doesn't, and it just rips through it. But just based on my own analysis, I think somewhere in there could be another stopping point, potentially early next year. We'll have to just come back and see. But yeah, let me go ahead and zoom in for you so you see what I'm talking about in more detail. So this is what Bitcoin looks like right now. It got above that 0.5 standard deviation line. So I think it's just a matter of time, probably middle of the month, as it starts to make its way up to the 1 standard deviation, and it could easily hit that by the end of the year. So end of the year, it could be at Bitcoin could be at 122,000 potentially, right? So what I want to do now is go back to my linear regression channel on the weekly so you can kind of see where we're at in terms of that. But yeah, right now we're at about 0.6, 0.7 standard deviations above the mean price of Bitcoin on a logarithmic regression price growth channel covering 775 weeks of data. Okay, so this is the linear regression channel for Bitcoin that goes back 2.5 years, all the way to June of 2022. And this is really where we saw a significant change in trend from a bear market to a bull market. And so January 2023, I believe, marked the earliest stages of this bull market. We had this head and shoulders formation that took us back to the bottom of a linear regression trend line around 26K. And then we went all the way to the top very quickly in March of this year, came down below the median line of the linear regression channel to hit our 49K low. And I did say I thought that was it. That was a low. And now we're getting close to the top of the channel. We're finding some resistance. So maybe we kind of just gradually make our way. I don't know exactly how this is going to happen, right? Like, if we can break 100K before the end of the year, obviously we have to get down to this, probably near this median line before the end of the year. So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go, but I think somewhere in this red zone area, right? I think it will happen this month where we get down to, like I said, I'm thinking around 84 to 88K. That could be wrong. We could go lower. We could hit this line. That is possible. I don't think we will, and I think we can kind of fly up to a new high in February, potentially, or January. It could be around 130K, right? That could happen sooner. We could break the channel. That's always possible as we head into mania mode, right? In mania mode, we are going to most likely break this channel. Yeah, because I think if we get into mania mode, I think our top would be higher than 204,000. I'm thinking like 270,000. So we could have a new channel develop above this this region. But for now, we'll just assume this holds until it doesn't, right? It's a 2.5 year long channel. I think we're kind of in the mud right now for just a little bit, maybe the first few weeks of December, and then we'll kind of bounce out of it, I think. And I think we're going to break 100K before the end of the year. I'm not sure if we'll hit anything much higher than that, but this is, of course, who knows, right? But this is kind of what I'm seeing right now. It's nice that we're in the upper area of the linear regression channel. There's 2 standard deviations from the mean in either direction. 3 standard deviations. Let's go ahead and see what that would look like and see kind of where that puts us. I'm going to go ahead and fit this. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. So if we do 3 standard deviations from the mean, it's still a strong trend. It still fits, and the channel still fits nicely. We actually never made it to the bottom of the channel, never even made it to the top. So what if we hit 3 standard deviations before the end of the year? That would put Bitcoin price like around 100. It could put it around 130,000. I don't think we're gonna go that high, but let's see what happens in October of next year. See, that's getting us closer to that target around 3 standard deviations. So this could be the channel that preserves throughout the entire bull run. It's possible, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, it's really, really hard. I still think we're going to have most likely head down for the first few weeks of December, but I think we break 100K, and then who knows, by early next year, it's hard to say. We could be in this upper region. I'm still thinking around 132, 128, 132K is going to be kind of a nice target to hit sometime in Q1. Um, we could always hit it sooner than that, but yeah, I think it makes more sense to be bullish than bearish at this point, even though I could see a little bit of downside at the beginning of this month coming up. Just revisiting the fib levels, you can see that we are encountering some resistance around the 1.272, which is approximately at $103,616. I mean, we made it close enough to that to say that it's acting as potential resistance, even though we haven't really gotten up to it yet. But the reason why I'm calling for 128 to 132K is sort of the next area of major resistance once we overcome this one, which I think will happen near the end of the year, middle to the end of December. I think the 1.414 is going to stand in our way and also potentially offer some resistance. That fib is at $128,120.81. And that is the top, that is 2 standard deviations on the linear regression channel. Now, if we make it to 3 standard deviations, we could go all the way to the 1.618, which is at $173,805. I really wouldn't like to see that at the beginning of Q1, only because that's going to heat risk up quite a bit. That's getting near the top of where our risk will allow us to go. If we were to let me pull up the risk metric that I use, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Uh, 1 second, let me find it. It is somewhere in here. Okay, there it is. Yeah, if we start to hit the 1.618, I'm worried that's going to trigger probably the pi cycle top and get us into a really tricky situation. I think if we can cool off somewhere in here, it'll be a little bit more promising that our bull run could extend all the way towards the end of the year. We are currently at 62 risk, but I don't know. I worry if we get too high. Let me turn off the fibs real quick. Um, so this isn't so messy. Put that back. Yeah, so I mean, right now we're at 62 risk. We've just barely broken into this new risk band. I'd like to see us go to the top of this risk band and then sort of like crab around a little bit. I think we're going to crab for just a little bit. Like I said, maybe we make it down to this red zone. I don't know. And then bounce. But I would like to see this stop out somewhere around 100 and 132,000 in quarter 1 and then have a longer crabbing time to get us towards the end of the year and then allow for that final blast off to much higher values in October 2025 or something. So I don't know exactly where that's going to be according to this risk metric, somewhere around maybe north of 200,000. Could we blast through like we've done in the past, like with the 2017 top, and go just a little bit higher? I mean, it could happen, right? So I would prefer to see Bitcoin chill out a little bit in maybe the middle of next year to kind of give it a better chance at making it all the way to the end of the year. I don't want to see it overheat. 100 risk right now is at $181,000. So yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't matter what I want, right? Bitcoin's going to do what it does. So these are the quarterly Fibonacci candles for Bitcoin. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterly Fibonaccis in a row. Back in 2020, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then after that, we got some reds. What about 2017? Well, it was just green forever. So there's really no telling exactly what's going to happen here, but what I'd like to see happen is get one more green Heikin-Ashi. Seeing this overshadow, I hope we can close with an overshadow, and maybe we could see another green Heikin-Ashi that's like, strong in quarter one, and then maybe quarter two is indecisive or red, or maybe quarter one is indecisive. I wouldn't mind either way, because that would get us up to that next area where I think it would make sense to have some resistance, and then maybe we can get a series of red Heikin-Ashis, or maybe some red and green alternating, just have kind of a series. That would throw us into a bear market. I'm forgetting these are quarterly, not monthly. Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to see at least another quarterly with maybe an overshadow right here to close things out, and then maybe in January we see another one. Could be in quarter two that we see like an indecisive, and then I don't know exactly. It's going to go red at some point. But let's take a look how many we got. 7 here. There were 7 here, and this one was 27 all the way from 2015 onward. I mean, it was just green after green after green. Yeah, but you can see what's happening over time is it's starting to break up more and more. So we'll have to keep an eye on the quarterly Heikin-Ashis. How do they look for the stock market? That's always kind of where I like to look for a comparison. They look great. As long as the stock market looks like this, there's no reason to think that Bitcoin should be anything but strong. So something else we should also consider is I am being a little deterministic about. Oh, not sure what just happened there. I am being a little deterministic about Bitcoin having a slowdown in quarter one or quarter two. That might not happen, right? So let's keep track of these Heikin-Ashi candles and see kind of. I mean, the stock market looks way better than Bitcoin, and we want to get to a point where Bitcoin looks better than the stock market. We haven't really reached that yet, but I feel like it's coming. Bitcoin on the weekly looks very strong. Like it's just still above all of its key HMAs. Like it's above the 10, the 10 is above the 20. All these golden crosses with the 100 are taking place. We can see the 40 with the 100 should come fairly soon. The 50 with 100 should come soon after that. So all the moving averages will be lined up from least to greatest, and that's when I anticipate mania is going to occur. It looks like it could happen by the end of this year or early next year. So whatever pullbacks we have, in potentially this week or even into next week, I think it's going to be very short lived. I don't think it'll last any longer than maybe a couple weeks. And I think we'll see a sharp reversal and blast off to the upside. It's also possible that we only cool off for like a few days, like you never know with Bitcoin what's going to happen. But I'm thinking, like I said, I'm thinking a couple weeks. So that's what I'm going to say for now. Weekly looks really, really strong. I wouldn't bet against Bitcoin when it looks like this. What about Bitcoin dominance? What's going on there? Bitcoin dominance looks atrocious. And that's really good news for altcoins, right? So we'll talk about altcoins in another video, but you can see it in the weekly. The first major death cross is occurring with the 10 week, and the 20 will follow. So yeah, this is Bitcoin dominance is below its 618, all the way down at 57.35%. So you're really seeing your first major altcoin season here. So I don't think Bitcoin's going to make any like massive moves really in either direction, like up or down. I think a little bit of a crab downwards is probably likely in the next few weeks, and then I think probably breaking through 100,000 and maybe making it, I don't know exactly where, 115,000 by the end of the year, 114. That's not that big of a move. It really isn't, right? And you have to think. You don't think in terms of the numbers. Think more in terms of the ROI from where we are right now, like the multiples. That's such a small move. So I don't think that would necessarily raise dominance in any kind of meaningful way. So yeah, I'm gonna do a video on altcoins pretty soon. We'll take a look at kind of what's going on in the altcoin market, because things are pretty from heating up quite a bit there. So yeah, look for that pretty soon. Um, and I would say, as far as like your positioning goes at this point, not financial advice, but if you're extremely heavy on Bitcoin, and you haven't offloaded anything to Ethereum or altcoins, understand that 2025 is probably not going to be a Bitcoin year. You're already starting to see Bitcoin dominance kind of fall apart. That's a sign that the rotation is going away from Bitcoin and into more risky assets. We also have an FOMC meeting coming up on December 18th. I believe that's the date it's coming up, and there's right now a 66% chance of a 25% a 25 basis point rate cut. So whether the rates freeze or cut, I still think 2025 is going to be a spectacular year for crypto, especially Ethereum and altcoins. Bitcoin, I think, will have its time to shine also, but I think most of Bitcoin's return on investment potential has been exhausted at this point. And at most, I see maybe from where we are right now, at the very most, a 2.5 to maybe a 3x. I have even a hard time seeing that, honestly. So most of your ROI moves are going to be elsewhere. But we'll still keep track of Bitcoin because Bitcoin does still control most of the crypto market. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Crypto Simulation Theory. It was a pleasure having you to talk about Bitcoin. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are, so leave me a comment below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to be notified of more videos. And join me in my Telegram group where we have 300 people devoting themselves to helping you learn how to navigate the crypto markets independently. It's totally free. Sign up and join us. We'd love to have you. So until next time, have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you again soon. Bye.